The Aftermath, every Sunday morning from 6 o'clock on Tab Radio, Racing and Sport.
How are you, Sal? Have
Hello,
you recovered,
Marty.
mate? Have you got yourself up off the floor after Manly just laid down on you?
Well, they did, but I'm hoping the people were smart enough to, just take the two try scorers because we got something.
No, you've got to take your wins and your losses. I know Brad Hardie was listening in and he sent me a text. He said, have you checked in on Sul? I said, yeah, I have. He's are you okay, mate? He said, yeah, I'm fine.
It was unbelievable,
It was
Sul.
all good, but we did go to Trebojevic into Stag, which was nice.
Yeah, but Tommy went over at the 8th minute. I said, how good's this? We're up 20-4, wasn't it, the score?
Yeah, 20-4 at half time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
20-6.
20-6. Yeah, and they laid down. And then what about, I couldn't see that other one coming, Brisbane Broncos getting pantsed by the Roosters. Wow.
Well, I think if we just quickly, and Shorty, as you saw the score, 40-18, the Roosters. But let's just take a little bit of the orange peel off the game. And at the end of the day, Adam Reynolds goes down with the bicep. That could be season ending too, boys. The muscle off the bone. It's not good for him. And then at the same period, Marty and Dave, Ezra Marm's gone off for the HIA, so he's gone off for 15 minutes as well. All of a sudden, the Rooster says, I'll have a bit of this. And they fed on it big time. And, mate, I tell you one bloke that's, really back in form. And, mate, he wouldn't be out of place back in an Origin jumper. And I'm talking about Angus Crichton. He's been outstanding. He had a bit go on, as we know. He went to Amsterdam and after the World Cup win for the Kangaroos, and I think he had the wrong mushrooms, to be honest. So that's the truth. I'm not joking. That's actually the truth.
Really?
That's what actually happened.
Okay.
To him. So he's had some problems, but gee whiz, Angus Crichton now, he is back in big form, and they were good, mate. They scored 100 points in the last 2 weeks. The Sydney Roosters.
It's a whole lot of action getting over the line, that's for sure and certain. Where does it leave Brisbane after that performance, Sul?
Oh, I think they'll regroup, mate. I think the big thing is obviously the injury to Reynolds. It looks like, and Madden, he got injured last week, so it'll be interesting to see who partners Marm next week. So hopefully Madden's back, but he's at the end. As we know, Adam Reynolds not getting any younger. And he's just signed a 1 year extension, of course, at the club. So I just hope we get to see him before season end. And if we do, mate, he could come back and just guide him around. And sometimes you need that loss, don't you? They've been going along okay. But the Roosters, we've been waiting though, Marty.
Yeah, I know.
We've been waiting.
I'm worried about the Broncos, Sal. How's this for synergy? Broncos and the Brisbane Lions both go down in a grand final last year by the narrowest margins. Like Broncos had that in the bag and let it slip, and Brisbane, you could say, could have gone either way. They're both going like bastards. I think the Broncos are going terribly. They're seventh.
Really?
Yeah. The big games, they've failed this year, I reckon. No, not for me.
I put the same onus on the side that beat them on Friday night, though.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for this Roosters side. And, they got the bottom line, they got the Dragons at the right time last week. It was a third game in 11 days for the Dragons. The Roosters got them at the right time. But I've got a little thing, a little scenario, lads. This lock. Now, there's a man called number 13. We call him in rugby league. He's called the lock. Isaiah Yo's, he's been the one that takes it up. He touches the ball a lot. The last 2 weeks, Victor Radley hasn't played for the Roosters. Touches the ball too much, in my opinion, as does Cam Murray at the Rabbitohs. Far too much for back rowers. Radley hasn't been there. They've scored 100 points. They're letting the ball talk. So we'll watch this space on that one.
Whatever they're doing right now, it's working. 100 in 2 weeks is certainly enough to suggest they've got things on the right path. Gee, there were a couple of cracking games there yesterday, Sul. We'll kick off with the Bulldogs West Tigers game, and the next two were both cliffhangers. The Bulldogs here 22 defeating the West Tigers 14. It was a good game, really tight for the majority of it, but the Doggies pulled out plenty late in the piece, and it was a nice win for them.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, down 14-6 at half time, the Bulldogs, so they had to come back. The West Tigers, they ended up with 11 men. There was a little bit, this little hooker, this Reed Marnie, he can light a fuse of a few opposition players. He did it to Hetherington a couple of weeks ago for Newcastle. He's done it to the Tigers players last night. And as you say, a couple ended up in the bin. Oh, referee Casey Badger, she's copping a hammering over here this morning.
Oh, yes.
Yep. Oh, mate, it's lit up over here. Obviously, we saw the two ladies refereeing last night. But the best thing about it, Shorty, as you mentioned, mate, they've had to come from behind. You know, they're 8 points down at half time. Slowly but surely, this Bulldog side are just getting things. I'm not going to say they're going to make the 8, and they're going to challenge the sides who I think will make the 8. But at the end of the day, they're going to be thereabouts, and they're improving. That's the best thing.
Indeed. On to the Titans v Storm clash. Storm went in warm favourites here, and they were up and about early doors, but the Gold Coast Titans made a really sustained push to try and work back into the contest, and in the end, the Storm scraped home with a 2-point victory, 22-20.
And haven't they scraped home a few times this year, the Melbourne Storm? That's their 4th win in the last 6 weeks by 6 or less points. And it was an amazing game of footy. As you say, Shorty, 20-12 at half time they led. They only scored 2 points in the second half. And this Titan side, on the other scenario, haven't they been unlucky the last month? They've been so close
Big time.
many times. But I tell you what, do yourselves a favour, go to the 33rd minute and have a look at Sua Farlonga. Remember that name, Farlonga. Never, mate. The try, Melbourne Storm. You talk about Pappenhausen. This kid. And talking about Pappenhausen, he came off. What it is, boys, it looks like he's got a little fracture. You know, he had a plate put in that leg.
Yep.
Oh, it looks horrible, Sol. This look, actually watching the replay a couple of times over, this could be any sort of damage, not just that, like lower leg. It looked like it just buckled underneath. It was a horrible viewing.
Yeah, and as we know, when you get those plates put in your leg, sometimes you can have problems around the plate itself. So I'm reading an Instagram this morning from Pappenhausen, and he said that he's got a little fracture above the plate. So not sure how long that is. But as you said, Dave, it looked awful, didn't it? And we all cringe when Pappy, you know, we love him. We just love him, love watching what he does on the footy field. He's exciting. He's like Reece Walsh. He's exciting. But this far longer, he's an excitement machine as well. That's a good win for the Storm. But Titans, old Desi Hasler, he might need a haircut shortly.
I love Desi. What about the Cowboys and Dolphins? So I know I'm talking after the event, but I looked at the prices during the week. I thought, geez, the Dolphins are big odds here. They were outsiders in this game.
Well, they were, but it was up in Townsville, of course. That's the reason being. But Jermaine Osako just keeps doing it. 3 tries, kicked 4 goals, and that was the difference in the end, goal kicking, because Nanai scores in the 77th minute, and Holmes couldn't level it up. Oh, wouldn't that been a thriller up there? But, mate, Dolphins, they're just doing what they're doing. They're sitting in the 8. I'm a bit worried about the Cowboys, to be totally honest, Marty. The pen's ready.
Yep.
The pen's ready to go through them.
You've been with them for a long time.
I have, mate. And as you know, 5 tries each last night. I know goal kicking was the difference, but they should be putting these sides away, especially at home.
Shorty, have you ever seen one of these coaching moves when, you know, the designated move is that he'll coach and then he moves on and then the other one, the anointed one, comes in? Does it ever work? So if the Dolphins continue on like this, they'll be in the final, they're 4th at the moment, and when it's Bennett's got to go.
Yeah, sorry, but it's time to move on now. And you're right. It's all the best laid plans so often come across. You really need to have a degree of flexibility when it comes to coaching and a season. And, well, you're right. If the Dolphins are up and about, and I mean, can you just imagine if it does build the momentum and it's a farewell opportunity to send off one of the all-time great coaches in a winning fashion, first ever flag for the organisation, it would be a fairy tale.
And he goes back to your mob.
And just quietly, I'm not exactly reaching for the Kleenex there. They need all the help they can get. And to be fair, there's probably no better man for the job right now to try and straighten that organisation up, because, Sol, it's fair to say right now the Rabbits are an absolute laughing stock. They're a rabble.
They are, mate, and they are. And I know they've got a lot of quality out, but I went up and watched the Jersey Flag on Friday night, and they got beat by the Panthers as well, unfortunately. But, you know, the depth in the halves is a concern for me. at that club. As we know, Ilias has gone with a broken leg. We saw I won't say young Hawkins, but Hawkins do a quad kicking off. You ever seen that? Never seen a bloke do a quad kicking off. And so, at the end of the day, they're in a bit of trouble there. Ben Hornby's got a tough job, but you're just saying then, Marty, about obviously now Bennett will sign this week. That's the bottom line. I think we don't know what goes on behind doors. I think Christian Wolf's got a fair bit of pull up there at the Dolphins at the moment, which is the general transition, which will happen. We know that he coached them when they went to Darwin and beat the Eels. So, he's got his hands on the pulse. But they're playing good footy, and I like Shorty's scenario. As you said, that side will go, mate, he's out of here next year. Let's just keep rolling. They've been great, mate. They haven't got Farnsworth and Flegler haven't been playing either. They're big outs. So, they're going good, the Dolphs.
They've got a bit of stuff to come back into the camp to make them better as the season goes on. But a real alarming thing for the Rabbitohs, so often, new coach, there's a little bit of, you expect some form. And I know there was only a few days for it to sort of kick in, but there was 9 minutes of response. They got the first 2 tries of the game, and after that, they conceded 7 straight, and there wasn't so much as a whelp. They are just absolutely fly-blown at the moment. So they'll be an interesting watch. No doubt there'll be more fallout because they are a very public side. There's always a lot of scrutiny on the Rabbits over there in New South Wales, and while they're performing like this, those that aren't necessarily lovers of that franchise come out of the woodwork to get stuck in. So at the moment, they're giving them plenty of arsenal to fire up at the Rabbits with, that is for sure and certain. Let's get into the Sunday action. Soul, see if we can't find a couple for the punters for this afternoon. Couple of games still to come to finish up the NRL round. It kicks off at 12 o'clock with Newcastle at $2.55, New Zealand $1.50. Line betting is at 5.5 and total points 38.5.
Very wet over here, boys, today in Sydney. I'm about to head up to Sydney now, but it'll be very, very wet along the coast. So Newcastle will cop a bit, and no doubt Cronulla will cop a bit as well. This first game, it's a tough one. It's the hardest game of the round. That's what I had marked earlier in the week. Obviously, last year's 2 finalists have already they squared off five weeks ago, and the Warriors got over the top of them. That was at home, but the Knights looking to go back to back for the first time in 24. They're another side I've been waiting. The Warriors to do something. They've got a good record. They're 3 from 4 against the Knights. I'm going to go the Warriors 1-12, boys. I think now's the time, and the reason being, obviously, no Ponga. Kurt Capewell comes back into that pack. He is so important to this Warriors side. We know what he's done at the Panthers and the Broncos in the past. I'm going to go the Warriors 1-12.
Okay, have we got a try scorer in that game, Sol?
Oh, yeah. We'll go my favourite man. Come on, who is it, Marty? Who is it?
Oh, for the Warriors?
Yep.
Johnson?
He knows I love the fullback, Shorty.
Oh, yeah.
He knows I love Chance. Chance Nickel Clockstad.
The former Raider.
That's him, mate. That's him. Yep.
And so Chance will get involved there. And the second game, Soul sees Cronulla hot faves here. The Sharkies at 121, Dragons at 450, Lions big at 13.5, and the under-over is set at 44.5. Support for the under.
Yeah, Dragons not won at Shark Park since 2018. First game, Flanagan goes back. He goes back where he was the king. But, this Shark side, they're riding high. They've won 4 in a row. They had a great April. But as I said, the weather. We'll have a response from the Dragons. Don't worry about that. But I don't think Sharks will throw them. I don't know if they'll blow them away. That's what I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So my play today is going to be the Warriors 1-12, the Sharks 1-12.
Mm-hmm.
$8.78.
Yep.
And then the try score any time. Chance Nickel Clockstad into Jesse Ramian from the Cronulla Sharks, 6.46.
6.46 there for those two gentlemen to be getting over the line today. Chans and Jesse, get around them punters this afternoon if you're looking to have a punt on the NRL, and we want the Warriors and the Sharks both to win somewhere between 1 and 12 at the $8.78. Beautifully done, Sul. How are we looking? I know we're a little bit out, but state of origin, no doubt there's some eyeballs starting to head towards that particular neck of the woods. What's the latest in regards to the two camps as we warm up towards state of origin?
I'll tell you what, Shorty, it's funny, and Marty, never hear what Queensland are doing. They're settled. They're okay. Everywhere you look, New South Wales. What's Madge going to do? They're a rabble. Tedesco, he's found his feet though, Marty. So bang, you can put him in the one. Crichton and Trebojevic in the centres. Now Cam Murray, he's gone for 8 weeks as well, Shorty. So he won't play Origin. So he's a big out there. Who's he picking 6? We might know this afternoon. Let's watch Nico Hines in that Dragons game. I think that's me personally. I think Cleary, Hines, they're a good mix in the halves. But as I said, I think Tedesco all but sewed up that one jumper on Friday night.
So always good to chat. We'll listen in on Thursday. Do it again on Drive on Friday. Thanks for your time today.
Have a wonderful Sunday, people.
Always good to talk rugby league with James Sullivan. We're about to talk greyhound racing with Cose Dagostino next.
Racing. Renegade Cachise began cleanly and leads all over Carly, Light Manelli, deep out our boy Doug. Well back is Taco Time, Crisscross Lass and Henry Keeping, but it's all Renegade Cachise. All over Carly's going to run second. Renegade Cachise has run 16.55, second all over Carly. Third.
Well, what about this greyhound, David? Tell us about Renegade Cachise.
This was phenomenal, Marty, there on Thursday night at Mandurah. This greyhound hasn't just broken the track record, it has obliterated the track record, coming out and taking just under 4 lengths off the previous track record, which is just remarkable. A greyhound that's been an absolute winning machine since coming across here to WA and joining Cose Dagostino. Cose's been good enough to pick up the phone for us on this Sunday morning. Welcome to the Aftermath, Cose. David Shortte and Marty Young with you, and congratulations. This was some run from Renegade Cachise there on Thursday night.
Yeah, it was. He decided to jump for a change, and I was sort of a bit speechless when I saw the time. But I think that dog probably deserves some sort of recognition for what he's done here, and now it's in the book.
It's an incredible record that the dog has put together. Cos has now had the 30 starts, 20 wins and 6 seconds. So an incredible record for a dog that has just got a wicked turn of foot. Once Renegade Cachise balances up, there really aren't too many dogs in WA that can go anywhere near the speed that Renegade Cachise works up to. And I guess that was while we were surprised at how many lengths it broke the track record by, I don't think too many were overly surprised that Renegade Cachise was the sort of dog capable of breaking that record. The dog's always had really, really high octane ability.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it would go the other night because of the weather, but I think we probably got an hour or two of no rain before that race. It's absolutely belted down after the race, so we're fairly lucky there. But, yeah, I think the track was okay. No, it didn't surprise me he'd break the record, but just the manner in which, sort of, you see 16.50, you don't think it's like breaking 29 at Cannington, I suppose. You probably don't think you're ever going to see it, and it sort of shocked me a little bit when I saw the 16, the 5 on the clock, and I thought, oh, there we go. But he was charging away at the end. His last sectional, I think he broke the first and last sectional record as well, which makes sense. But yeah, it was a nice surprise.
Hey, Cozzy, now, Shorty gave us his record, 30 starts, 20 wins, 6 seconds, but he started off in Victoria. What's his record for you look like?
He was, okay, well, any mathematicians in the studio?
Cos.
12 starts for 7 wins when I got him, so... What does that work out? A couple of seconds. So
18. So he's had 13 from 18 with you.
13 from 18, and ran second in the group 2 to Crumble Manelli. So he's probably counts as a win, I reckon.
Oh, it does. What prize money wise, it's as good as. I mean, for a dog that doesn't run the 500 in town, Renegade Cachise is now in excess of $104,000 in prize money. It speaks wonders of the money that's available for all distances at the top end, Cozzy. And the beauty of this dog is having only 30 starts on the clock. There's an awful lot of racing still to come for Renegade Cachise heading forward.
Yeah, look, he's only young. I think he's about 2.5, something like that. So, and he's just a chaser. He just relaxes at the track, and as soon as that the stirrup lure goes round, It's like the old movie Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone when he turned the hat around, mate. The hat turns around, and for our older listeners, I should say. Yeah. All the young listeners are going, "What the hell's that?" But yeah, he just focuses, mate. He just
game time.
Game time. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
I tell you, Cose, you've been involved for a long time, and you haven't got a huge team, but you just continue to find yourself with really nice dogs. Renegade Cachise is obviously one end of the scale, a short courser, a greyhound that we saw finish runner-up in our Group 1 Galaxy going back 6 or 7 weeks ago now in Jelly Manelli, a daughter of Flake Manelli, who was one of our best sort of greyhounds of the last decade. Did a wonderful job with Jelly Manelli working the dog up, won some races over the 650 at Mandurah, and then brought the greyhound to town, and it was a mighty run when finishing runner-up in the Group 1 Galaxy final. But Peter O'Neill passed on to our listeners that you've retired Jelly Manelli, and she's set to be a mum. Tell us a little bit about that decision, and it's a credit to you from a training perspective. Here you are, got a dog breaking track records over the short trip at 275, and you've got a place getter at the other end of the scale with a stayer over the 715 metres in our longest race. It speaks volumes of your ability as a trainer to adapt to the dog that you've got and get the best out of them, whatever the distance range.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, I appreciate that. I know that most people know that. I coached footy for 20 years, mate, and I treated the boys that I coached, or the kids that I coached, individually, and it's a similar thing with the dogs, mate. It's every dog's got to be worked according to its ability and what we think it can do. So our judgment call is I suppose, the buck stops with us as trainers, and we'll accept when a dog goes well or goes poorly. But Jelly was an unbelievable ability. She's Crumble Manelli's sister. She just untapped ability, and sent her over to Dave Gill. She broke a class record at Sandown over this, and sort of really changed her attitude, to sort of going on the plane and different tracks and different training methods, and come back, and she was just a much better chaser. And so I'll give credit to Dave Gill as well for helping me out. And also Paul Kelsis had a couple of looks at her for me and found a couple of little things, niggles and stuff like that. So he helped me a bit too. So yeah, we sort of help each other. And I was a bit surprised how strong she run it out. But at the end of the day, I retired her because I just had a sort of moment of clarity one morning and thought, no, I'm just going to scratch her and retire her because it's a very valuable. I think she'll throw anything, mate, because it's. Her sectionals, the time she trialled solo and everything, were just people had to see them to believe them, and I think it's fair to the dog, and I'd love to see her have puppies, and any bad luck or anything like that in a racing incident or anything like that might have been taken away. So that was why that decision was made. Have you got
a sire picked out for her first litter?
I've got an Aussie Infrared.
Excellent.
Cool. Yeah, so he's going fairly well at the moment, but she's Barsha Bale out of Flake Manelli, so we couldn't use Barsha or Fernando because Flake's out of Fernando. So we've gone to Aussie Infrared. So hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully she comes on heat shortly, and away we go.
Hey, Cose, we're celebrating WA's 50 year of chasing here, and we can't let you go without reminiscing and going back to the Storm Act. How long ago is that? 25, 30 years?
Yeah, well, she won Greyhound of the Year 96, so it's 28 years.
28.
Yeah. Look, funnily enough, my birth date is December 13, 1974, and the first race meeting was December 12, 1974.
Wow.
Okay? And I was born a few minutes after midnight. So, literally, I was 5 minutes off being born on the 12th of December 1974, the day greyhound racing started in WA. So,
that's crazy.
It was an omen.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, well, mate. It was, when I found out, I thought, what? Well, hang on. Yeah. So, I turned 50 this year as well. So, it's pretty crazy stuff. But, Stormac was I think she had 50. You might have her record there. I'm not sure. About 50 starts for 30 odd wins and 15 placings. And the worst, I think she finished was 4th. So beat the champion Flying Amy in the Interstate Challenge, and won the consolation of the Perth Cup, and I retired her the next day. So
she was an amazing.
Yeah,
bitch.
she was good old champ, good old Joe Panetta. So yeah, it was great.
Absolutely. And Cos, over that 50 years, you've sort of been involved for that 35 range. Is there one or two moments from the sport, or one or two dogs or races that really resonate with you over that 50-year period?
I think your mullet was
Geez, you're going back a while now.
Hey,
yeah, I was going to say your mullet was one of the... Yeah, I know, mate, I know. Look, seeing dogs like Ten Hill Dole and Rapid Journey and Worthy Reward here. Sandy's my mum. I was sort of watching that from home.
Yep.
Then I bought a property next door to Jerry O'Keefe, who is at the great Sandy's my mum, and invited me over through they sort of had a big room with all their trophies, and so it sort of gave me something to... I never wanted to aspire to that sort of stuff, but it just created a massive interest for me, but all the trainers that have come and gone, and probably the young trainers coming through now, it's great to see, and hopefully there's a future for the young fellas.
Absolutely, because you've been at...
Fellas and ladies, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of youngsters there on the scene at the moment, and a lot of family operations as well that's been a big part of the sport for a long period of time. Cos, it's been an absolute treat catching up with you this morning to talk some greyhound racing. Congratulations again on the effort there of Renegade Cachise on Thursday night, and continued success with your kennel, mate.
Cheers, mate. I'm just going to go back to making me... finishing off me Jamie Cripps voodoo doll.
Good on you, mate. Go well.
You get that one? See you, boys.
Good man.
Blah, blah, blah. Let Marty Young and David Shortte do all the talking on the Aftermath. Sunday morning at its best on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Shorty, there's a bit going on. Horses into the mounting yard for the Kentucky Derby. That is 15 minutes away. Get your bets on their putters. Also, we're about 15 minutes away from Game 1 of the new series between Denver and Milwaukee tipping off.
And Minnesota and Denver.
Minnesota, sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Timberwolves.
The old Milwaukee Bucks disappeared. They're gonzo, and season done there. But this is going to be a tremendous series. Game 1, Denver going $1.53 at home, Minnesota $2.55. The line's at 4.5. Total points 209.5. Pile of different bets available there if you're looking to get involved. And obviously, top point scorer, Jokic, warm at 210. But Jamal Murray's having an excellent series as well. Anthony Edwards has been amazing, getting it done inside, outside, and just starring. So it's going to be some series. Looking forward to it. Jokic, Murray, and also... Edwards, the big three, and Anthony Towns is a high-quality player in his own right. This is Rudy Gobert. This is a proper series. Gets underway, tip-off in 18 minutes' time. Good luck if you're having a punt there.
Be watching that one. Chris Nelson joins us to talk about Eagle Farm and also Hawkesbury Racing yesterday. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty.
G'day, Chris. Lovely to be with you on this Sunday morning, and... the action is really heating up there in Queensland. Of course, we had a big day of racing at Eagle Farm. Let's have a look at some of the key races throughout the course of the afternoon there, kicking off in race number 5. And it was a really nice performance from Golden Decade here for Ryan Maloney, defeating Inhibitions, and Weagle Tiger, who was pretty popular with the punters, finished back in third. But Golden Decade from Barrier 9, Ryan Maloney giving it a very nice ride here and getting the job done for trainer Matty Dunn. Has had plenty of success on the way through, Matty Dunn, and he would have been happy with this effort from Golden Decade.
Yeah, and look, he's a promising sort of horse. He's only had the 12 starts now. He's won 5 of them, and look, he come off a highway win at Randwick back on the 9th of December, but his form in Queensland before that was very good and very consistent. So he's in for a good campaign, I would say, Golden Decade. Inhibitions, I thought, ran well going to the front. It was a bit messy early on this race. I thought the run of the race, though, was clearly Weagle Tiger. The one you mentioned there, Shorty, jumped a length in front for CJ Graham, but then she elected to ease. And for a while there, he was behind the leader on the fence in a good spot. But when inhibitions went around them, he ended up in a bad spot. And he was 3 back on the fence. She came off the fence into the straight, but was never going to catch them then. But he was doing his best work late. And don't forget, he was first up over 1,300 metres. So he'll take plenty of benefit, off that run. I think he's the horse to follow out of the race. I think it'll be a good form race going forward. But for me, I'll be keen to see what Wiggle Tiger does next start.
Okay, race number 6 for the 2-year-olds was the Del Rello Stakes over the 1,000 metres, and the favourite gets home for Vlad Jurek and Les Ross, Mashani Lily.
Yeah, scampered home here, Mashani Lily. It was a good performance because she missed a kick by a length or more. She had to burrow through for Vlad Jurek, and she found the front. That gate 1 is gold when you miss the start in those sprint races, and she's got the speed to overcome it. So she went to the front and she led the Waterhouse Spot stable runner Madrina, who dropped off. Embassy sat behind them, had a beautiful run. Gee, this was a drifter. It opened up at about $3 or so in betting, probably half an hour before the race, and just kept getting out and out and out. Ended up starting at $6 officially, and you could see coming around the home turn, had a big bit of sweat there on the neck. So obviously didn't look that good in the mounting yard, did sweat up pre-race, and that was probably the reason for the big drift. But thought Embassy put in a really good run. Closed on Mashani Lily late. Margin was only 0.3 or length on the line. I think Embassy is definitely the horse to follow out of the race. The one that had the bit of a boom on it, Pareto, ran 8th, was 3 wide, no cover throughout, and these down in the straight. So you'd forgive that run. But for me, Embassy, the horse to follow.
On to the Group 2 Victory Stakes over the 1,200 metres. Great to see this horse back. Antino always had plenty of ability, this galloper, and yesterday we got to see the best of Antino. Vlad Jurek up there in Queensland. Geez, riding well, Vlad. His last 3 weeks, he's been very dangerous in the saddle, and it looks like he's set for a real purple patch up there. But Antino, great to see this horse back. Chris, Wee Nessie runner-up. Golden Mile back in 3rd, and Front Page was in 4th spot. But this was a win with a bit of an exclamation mark from a nice horse.
Yeah, and Tony Gollan said post-race, Shorty, he's unlike any other horse he's ever trained in his life. And he's trained a lot of horses, Tony Gollan. He's just a complete individual. He missed the start here, probably, 1.5 lengths. He was out the back. Vlad Jurek took the shortcuts all the way through, and then you knew he was going to get up on the inside of Wee Nessie in the straight, drove clear. You mentioned Vlad having a good run. Well, he got suspended yesterday. He got 3 suspensions yesterday, so that's going to put an end to his good run for a while.
Yeah.
2 excessive use of the whip and 1 careless riding. So I think it's the 19th to the 29th of May he'll be off the scene. It might actually be longer than that. I did read 18 days somewhere else, so I think it might be near enough to 3 weeks. So that's not good for Vlad, but Antino, very, very good. I thought all honours. Wee Nessie was good. She'll go towards the Tiara. Uncommon James sat wide, had a slow recovery. I don't know about him. He just didn't really do much. Look, he was probably a speed force early in the straight, so I thought he was disappointing, even accounting for all of that. So all honours have to be with Antino.
Queensland Guineas rounded it out, and Gary Portelli will be special guest on the program between 7 and 8. Kintyre was able to rally and hold off Razors in the Guineas.
Yeah, this was on pace dominated, Marty. Kintyre sat behind the leader on the fence. Razors sat up on speed. Presslink was close up as well, and they ran 1st, 2nd and 3rd. The one that missed out was Captain Finkel, but he was big odds after leading. Looking at the run on horses, probably easy done. Cafe, Millennium and Port Lockroy, the best of those, but they never got into the race, and that's the way it looked on paper. It just looked to be so low on speed that those good horses out the back, midfield or worse, were always going to struggle. So Kintyre from that inside gate, CJ Graham, of course, her first group win. She did a terrific job. She stuck to the fence all the way. The barrier won the race for her, though. So well done to CJ, well done to Gary. And, maybe some of those horses I mentioned running on we can look for going down the track as the races get longer.
Indeed. Big day of racing as well there at Hawkesbury yesterday. The Group 3 Hawkesbury Guineas going the way of Schwartz. J Mac getting the job done, defeating Bojangles and McHale.
Yeah, and look, he took any bad luck right out of the equation here, J-Mac on Schwartz. He went straight to the front. The horse that we thought might go forward with him, Butch Cassidy, missed the start. So that helped the Schwartz supporters. And He was very impressive. And look, this is a big step down in class for him. He'd been going up against much, much stronger opposition, and he'd been racing very well. So now they will head towards the Fred Best, which they'll probably need to win. And then he'll head to the Stradbroke if he's successful in the Fred Best. But I know something J-Mac said post-race. He really likes him at 1,400 metres, and he reckons he'd be quite good at 1,600 metres. Now, a Stradbroke, you're looking for a horse that can run probably a mile most of the time, so that's going to suit him. So he might be a chance in a Stradbroke.
Timely for Widden Stud, son of Zeus Star. Just put him up to 275,000 for a serve. So bingo, bango.
Wouldn't mind having him in the backyard. Wouldn't mind him in the backyard chomping on a little bit of grass and having a few girlfriends. Chris, it makes for a pretty nice life.
Not at all. You wouldn't need too many.
That's the truth. On to the Group 3 Hawkesbury Gold Cup. I'm actually just getting myself back up off the chair after this one. You can probably guess who I might have been on in that tight photo finish. It didn't go my way, it must be said. It was Just Folk and Nash Rawilla just outpointing Detonator Jack on the wire, and Wellwell was back in third.
Probably the same one I was, Shorty, Detonator Jack. He just kept coming and coming down the outside, and I thought he might have got there on the line, but no, Just Folk got the job done. Wellwall was probably a bit stiff, got a bit tight there on the fence late. J-Mac looked at the screen, stewards looked at the video footage, should I say, and they decided not to protest. But Just Folk, off that run, a Bendigo last start was too good. Detonator Jack was his usual honest run. I don't know if he can take a lot out of the race because it was getting pretty wet by that stage, and Just Folk does love the wet ground. He got the rain at the right time, didn't he?
He's been a beauty, though, Just Folk. Take nothing away from him. He's a Magnus. He's won over 1.1 million in stake money, and Gavin Bedgegood's doing a terrific job with him. So good luck to the Just Folk team there. And what about the... we on the last here, race number 9?
Dead heat. I thought I might have... This is incredible. At least I copped the dead heat on this one, Chris. I was on full for Cindy. I thought, might have got something, Chris, and we've ended up having to chop out again.
I thought on the line she'd won, but then if you look at the... if you go back and have a good look at the replay, she got held up in the straight, and she should have won. So we can't take a trick, the two of us.
It's our week next week, Chris. We're due a little bit of good fortune.
Yeah, she was good, and I'd say she'll probably head to Brisbane for something up here for Cindy. She's only had the 2 runs back, so she's a promising type. I'm sure if Johnny O'Shea's bringing up Schwartz, he'll bring up a few others as well, and she might be one of those. But she should have won. There's no doubt about that, Shorty. But anyway, that's racing.
Okay, now we'll get horses to follow, and then you better give us some tips for Sunshine Coast on the synthetic if you've got any.
Yeah, horses to follow out of Eagle Farm, Wiggle Tiger and Embassy. Stick with those two. Hawkesbury, definitely Schwartz. And Contemporary out of the last race. Thought he might need the run. Very well backed, very strong. I think he'll be heading to Queensland. So look out for him up here, Contemporary. Sunny Coast today. We'll try a bit of a super multi here, guys, on the Polly. And it's still raining, I can tell you. Race 2, number 1, Bohemian Lad to win. Race 3, number 12, Willabelle to win. Race 4, number 7, Denied to win. And race 8, number 14 at the big odds, Grandeur Rose to place. And you get around probably close to $15, something around that mark.
Okay, race 2, number 1, win. Race 3, number 12, win. Race 4, number 7, win. And race 8, number 14, place. Yeah?
Yes.
Correct?
Fingers crossed.
Righto. Okay, we'll listen again on Wednesday for all your good work up there, and again on Saturday morning. That's must-listen radio with you and Nathan Exelby. Tipping the winners.
And... yeah, well, I think Nathan had a couple and I had a couple and plenty of seconds between us. So hopefully next week those seconds can be first as we head towards probably a wet Hollindale on the sunny coast, guys.
All the best to Tigers today up against Shorty's Dockers. Should be a good game at the MCG. All the best, Chris. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great Sunday.
Good luck, Chris.
Here's a man who might just be on top of his game at the moment. Very good morning to Racetrack Ralphy.
Yeah, good morning, boys. Wow, what a win that was last night from the boys. Finals game, a finals type atmosphere, as they say.
Some game of footy, Ralphie, and what about the goal from Fritsch late in the piece to just put that final nail in that coffin? My goodness, under a heap of pressure. And had he tried to kick that ball aerial, sort of at eye level or higher, really small chances of actually nailing it. But the modern day footballer, with very small amounts of time to make up how they're going to go about it. Geez, it was a clever kick in a clutch moment of that game.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, 30 or so years ago, Peter Dacos was about the full list of blokes who could do that. And now there's so many of them, isn't there? But and of course, the media narrative with Bailey Fritz has been that he's too selfish. He's going to stop kicking those goals. Should be handballed.
And they always spin better in the wet too. Those
they tend to
grubbers along the ground. They tend to. So where we're going at Caulfield, I tell you what, we've got to mention one of my favourites. He got up on me yesterday. I hadn't done the form. Ashford Street. Tommy Dabinick now trains it. He's a ripper, isn't he? We spoke about Just Folk. He's another one of these type of horses, isn't he? Racetrack where he won up in Queensland there Hawkesbury yesterday, but Ashford Street is similar.
He certainly is, and during his time with Ken, and it's continued yesterday, you always get a spoil for that horse. It's just bizarre that sometimes, is me barracking for Vivian, of course. That was a bit of a coma job, but he only jumped out once, and it'll be interesting. I think he's really one of the ones to follow from a pretty plain meeting, obviously with Warrnambool dominating, and even that in itself was a bit of a lead, wasn't it? With, as you said, Tommy Dabinick, but also Aaron Purcell, the Warrnambool trainers who chose to target Caulfield. Well, they got two winners up, and there was an odds on one that went down early in the day as well, as you know. But no, I think that was a bit of a lead too. But Ashford Street's a ripper. I think actually he'll go on with it now, and he's just got such a good strike rate and will to win.
They're pretty good attributes to have. Former West Aussie was impressive there yesterday in the benchmark 100 race, Midnight Blue. Dan Stackhouse was just left to run his own race with Midnight Blue, and you could see a long way out. It was travelling and the rest were being scrubbed to try and make up ground. Clever ride, but this horse can flat out run on its day as well. We've seen that across here in WA.
Yeah, well, that's right. I suppose it's the old everything's got a price because he was so bad at Terrain Cup. I wanted to forgive him. He was probably either going to get a soft lead or Wild Planet was going to take it up. But when Dan Stackhouse took it up, it was just game over. The track really played sort of what there was that strip 4 to 8 off the fence, which is no real surprise. I mean, with the rail out that far, you get out deep in the lanes. It was just going to be a question of how deep the lanes were. Stacking at this time of year. There's another one I should mention, actually, because I just did her stats. Jayla Kennedy, for your punters over there. Going into the meeting since Australia Day, she'd had 23 rides at $5 or under. I like looking at that because it sort of tells you how apprentices deal with pressure. And she's ridden 12 winners from 23 rides at $5 or under over the last 3 months. I reckon that's a pretty good sample size. So Jayla, who rode Ashford Street, I think she's going to be, never mind horses to follow, I think she's jockey to follow over this winter. I think the trainers will really gravitate to her when the claims become the A1.
How about over at Morphettville, the South Australian Derby? It was Coco Sun, Tony and Calvin McAvoy, Jamie Carr combining. So the fillies, or the filly beats the males there. Warmonger, good run in second, making late ground again. Yeah,
I think the extended story from that, Warmonger, I reckon, is a prep away. I think he's a real staying talent, whereas Coco Sun was the here and now filly. But also, I think the extended story from that is that Bendigo got its standalone day in the second week of April, and I'm just looking now. So Coco Sun won, Elphinston won, Just Folk that you've mentioned. The last race, Chorlton Lane, Extra 2 and Queensfly ran the trifecta, and they've all since won. So Bendigo produced, it's really well known over here as being a supreme country track. And it's good to see the form holding up when they presented it so well there. Just earlier in the day, boys, as well, we should mention there that I think the real race to follow there is that 1700, and that's because Declan Bates apparently goes all right on leaders, Declan. he really struck about, fair enough, with this derby. It didn't work for him yesterday, but what we got to see was what was under the bonnet. And Cadmus was fantastic, and this Merzan, I think they're going to have a lot of fun with Merzan. So I don't know how many runs Mr. Wallen tends to give this horse, but he's lightly raced. Wouldn't be surprised if they're keen to get its ratings up, win a couple of races. So I think they're the two that we can really follow, because Cadmus will be better over 2,000 metres as well. And for during the week at Warrnambool, obviously the first 2 days were mighty fence on, but particularly for you, Marty. Did we anything on the old boy too, Blue? Mystery Island. Oh, nice. So, yeah, so he was terrific too. But, unfortunately, it was a real fence on. But the last thing he should do is risk talent, as I always say. And they ended up putting up a tremendous price for two, Blue, for a horse. That talent just having a bowl around up there, too good for him in the long term. Yeah, it was a pretty good training performance and a good riding performance too, from young Fred Kersey. They've stuck together, these two, and they're really becoming a very good combination, aren't they? Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully they get that track right for next year, because it's too important a meeting for it to race like that. Put a lot of people off, but the quality did rise to the fore in the Cup as well.
What about
Mystery Island's got a bit of talent?
What about S.J. Miller and Brad Parnham sneaking across? No apology, running second in the Cup. That was a mighty fine effort as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So it was very, very competitive by last race. They got the track right on that day as well. So it's a really good meeting. I'm glad. The most important story from that week, I guess, from a Victorian racing, but probably Australian racing point of view as well, is just 10 years ago it looked like jumps was completely gone. And they really, all the safety mechanisms that they're now put in place. It's a pretty safe industry in sport now, and rightly so. It needs to be. And again, we had safe racing, and that Grand Annual, when you get beaten a cigarette paper in over 5,500, it's a pretty good spectacle.
Absolutely, Ralphie. And the week itself, just it's the envy of the nation, this Warrnambool Carnival week. Everybody, each and every year, we follow on from the other side of the country, and the social media stuff that comes out of it, the coverage, it just seems like the most incredible vibe, and a wonder. It's a bucket list item for a lot of people here in WA. I'll definitely get it done and dusted before I tap out 1 year over there, Ralphie. And the hard part's just keeping upright for 3 or 4 days by the looks of things. You need to have a decent constitution to keep rolling by the looks.
Couldn't recommend it highly enough, and for those wanting to do it. But yeah, you're right. The best phrase I use for Warrnambool is school is for over 40s.
Okay, Ralphie. racetrackralphie.com.au. Thanks for that.
Oh, yeah, Ralphie.
On The Aftermath, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club, Brad Hardie. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Good morning, Bradley.
Morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty. And just the running of the Kentucky Derby just then, boys. And I can tell you, Robert Dipia Domenico was on crack over there, and he's having birthday number 66, Kenny Calendar. Good morning to you today. And Dougie Hawkins also turned 64 today. So happy birthday to Dipper and Dougie.
Okay, Kieran Maher, I think he was on course as well there at Churchill Downs. It was taken out by Mystic Dan in a stirring three-way finish. Wasn't it a good finish? One of the favourites, Sierra Leone in the outside, and the Japanese horse Forever Young in the middle. But the one who'd kicked away at the top of the straight, just lasting to win there for Brian Hernandez at 19.75.40, Sierra Leone $2.30, and Forever Young at $2.90. Now, Bradley.
1975, Shorty. We remember that only too well. Shorty, I'm a bit older than you, but that was my first grand final, first Waffle grand final, West Perth and South.
Oh, it was a demolition. The Cardie's got hold of us, big time.
Oh, mate, they had a greyhound race at half time, and they brought out a greyhound with a West Perth rug on it, and they brought out a whippet with a South Fremantle rug on it, and the dog won the race as well. So we had a really bad day.
They do some weird things those days. Hey, let's go to the text line. Shorty, you preempted this. Retrovision, bring us the text line. This is Lisa of Allenbrook. She's a star. Morning, guys. Another close game in the AFL last night. Eagles and Essendon. Eagles 22 points down second half. Got themselves into the game with the midfield lifting. Kelly imposing himself on the contest. Lisa should be calling and writing. She should be writing AFL. Jake Waterman could have kicked his fourth. He took a great juggling mark to tie the score, but a moment of madness by Jamie Cripps on Nick Martin led to a reversed free kick. Liam Ryan is very unfit and has to go back to the Waffle. Injuries to Yo, Long and possibly Reid is a concern. I think the Eagles have shown significant improvement in their contested and clearance work. Brad, Lockie Schultz 1 week for his crude hit to the back of Blake Acres. Do the Pies appeal it? Have a great week. Lisa, gee, that's a well-written text.
Yeah, like I think they will appeal Lockie Schultz. I mean, that was just a stupid thing to do. But as I say, it doesn't measure up. That's my problem, is that, what people get 3 weeks for, and some people get 1 week for, and vice versa. And, yeah, they're getting a little bit ticky touchwood. But, yeah, good performance by the Eagles last night to hang in there. And well done to your boys too, Marty. I've got to say, their last month has been pretty darn good when you think that they dismantled my boys. They went to Adelaide and found a way to win there, Shorty. They had a draw on Anzac Day, and they gone to Perth and won there. So, look, they've franked their bona fides, I think, to say, well, listen, it's not how much you win by, as long as you keep banking the 4 points. We've seen that. And they currently find themselves in fifth spot temporarily. But that's all you can do is win.
4 of their 8 games have been interstate, so that's not a bad effort.
Yep, that's right. No, I agree. That's what I'm saying. They're a different team. I think your captain's very good, Zach Merritt. I think he's improved dramatically, Shorty, because I get really narky about blokes who get it 38, 39, 40 times and don't hit the scoreboard. Well, he's honed that back a little bit. He's still getting his high 20s and sometimes early 30s, but he's actually kicking goals off his own boot. And, he was just... and that's what you need. You need those sort of guys. I'd rather that. Give me that any day. 28 and 2 goals or... 29 and 1 or something like that off your own and create others than 40 and none.
Oh, spot on. I think the key too, like Merritt's kicked 3 goals in that win last night. In a game that you only win by a goal, when you've got one of your mids and your leader of the side chiming in with 3, they're bonus goal. Well, at least 2 of those 3 are bonus goals. You like to think they might be able to get 1. The really good midfielders sort of get 1 or occasionally 2, but to get 3 in a big game like that, fresh off the possibility of being really flat off that draw on Anzac Day in one of the most taxing contests I've seen for a long period of time, speaks wonders of Essendon's ability to freshen themselves up, come across here. West Coast aren't the walkover they were last year. Make no mistake, they've got some momentum up at the moment. They're playing some good football. Confidence is a beautiful thing. And speaking of confidence, there's 2 fellas that out of this game from a goal-kicking perspective have got it. Kyle Langford, another 3 last night for Essendon. I said to Marty off-air earlier today, Brad, he's transformed himself into one of the most consistent forwards in the AFL. He's good for 2 to 3 goals nearly every time he rolls up on game night. He doesn't always get the really big bags, but it's rare he doesn't kick at least 2, and most weeks this year he's been kicking 3. And Jake Waterman, and this is a great story. He's had a really tough time of it early on in his career. He was often the whipping boy for West Coast. Whenever things were tough, he seemed to be the one they used to want to blame and drop. But this season, with no Oscar Allen in the side, he has really stood up over the last month, and he's had some outstanding defenders on him through that period of time. He has delivered in spades, and this is a great result for West Coast fans, and for Jake Waterman, who's just kept on plugging away. Could have walked away and gone to another club at the end of last season. It got a bit messy there, but they patched things up, and he's having a stellar season.
Put him down for 2 goals next week because he's working his way down the ladder. 6-5-4-3. So you'd reckon to get 2 against Collingwood next week, won't he?
Well, he is second on the Coleman Medal leaderboard at the moment. 24 goals he's kicked.
Shorty's touched on, crisis sparks opportunity. Oscar Allen hasn't played a lot of footy over the last 18 months. And, Waterman was always the one squeezed out, and I couldn't understand that. He's a far better player than Darling's going. And, I think that he just deserved the opportunity. But he was always the whipping boy. He was the one that was pushed out. You go back. You go to wing. You go high half forward. They've been reluctant to do that. I mean, Oscar Allen occasionally swings around, but they don't move Darling. So I think they've only got themselves to blame. They should have found this kid or young man a long time ago, unfortunately, and they didn't.
Okay, let's go back. Carlton Collingwood Friday night. We've spoken about Adelaide and Port on Friday, but Carlton Collingwood, gee, what a player Nick Dacos is.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's the moments, isn't it?
Yeah.
And look, he runs really, really hard, and look, like his teammates, he's had a good, solid start to the year without being super, but he's found his niche the last few weeks, and on that, and that's what moments are all about. I mean, that's what the very, very good to great players can do. They find that opportunity, which not all of others, but just the finish, Shorty, was sublime. When you hit the pack at running, it reminded me of the way that Kerr and Judd and Cousins used to start on the defensive side, hit the pack really hard, find a bit of space and do the job. And yeah, no, he was terrific. And Carlton, look, they didn't lose any friends, but they had the sliding door moments. They've had a couple this year where they've lost. They've had one when they won against Fremantle. So they've got to get to a stage where they've got to start locking these away. And Collingwood, after a very dodgy start, look as though they're starting to build momentum, and there'll be a few nervous Nellies going forward. I think we're only in what are we in? We're in round just finished round 8 for them. There's a long way to go in the season, and they are starting to build, no doubt about that. It was a good game of footy to watch.
Interesting thing with Collingwood is last year, by about round 12, they were playing the most intoxicating brand of football. They played their best footy, I reckon, around about round 10 to 14 last year.
Yep.
And they had to tread water for nearly 10 weeks until the finals came, and then they found a way to sort of just get themselves up and going. But they never really got back to exactly where they were.
I agree.
I wonder if there's some method in their madness of potentially, you don't want to drop, too many games, but we don't need to be at our peak this time, rounds 10 to 14. Let's see if we can just keep doing enough to get in a decent spot and be peaking at the back end of the season. The other thing out of this game, Brad, the vision where they panned up to the corporate box and the Macedonian marvel up there with the family, and the little fella was there. He got caught up in the moment. I thought he was going to cop a backhander at some stage with everybody high-fiving and going wild up in the box, but weren't they special scenes? And Brad, for a guy I know that, Peter, and played against him, to see him there now watching, his sons, can you imagine the pride beaming out of this guy watching his two boys out there on the big stage, and how much love they've got for the black and white? It was pretty special to see those scenes from up there in the box on Friday night.
Oh, my word. And the biggest beneficiary, Marty, has been Dakes himself, because, he's been Harvey Norman, 48 months interest-free, and all of a sudden the bride's all over him. He can't believe he's how good's this. So, thank God for the kids. So this is handy. This is really handy. But,
he's back, Bradley. He's back. Service fee's gone through the roof.
No, it's good. It was great to see. And look, and we talk about moments, and I'm not going to lay it on him, but you just think that that if you watch the last 30 seconds or so, and Harry Mackay, who had a pretty good game, he took that mark, he wheeled around on the left foot, he kicked it the wrong direction, Marty. He kicked it to the hot spot, which you probably want to do on 9 times out of 10 occasions, but not in that situation. He needed to go pocket, to Curnow and Frampton, and he missed that chance. And look, it wouldn't have been a score, but it would have been probably a stoppage over the boundary, and they had a chance to rush it behind or something. It just didn't work, and that cost them. Moments can kill you, can't they?
Tell you another one. Just let Pendlebury roam around inside the 50 on his own, and side bottoms just pretending to take the long kick, and then Blake Acres was on him. He's gone to guard space, doesn't call the other defender over. I think it was Chin Cotter, it could have been. Come over, and it is Pendlebury, Brad.
Yep.
It's not Marty Young, it's not Brad Shortte, it's Pendlebury. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, this is the misnomer for me, and I hear it all the times, and a lot of the learned supposed commentators say, it's the handover. Handover? Mate, just pick up your man.
Exactly.
Don't worry about handing over. There's no such thing. Pick up your man. That's what you need to do. And it's one thing to guard space, but how long have we been saying it, Shorty? Everybody wants to go long. Everybody wants to roll back into the space long. What about the bloke who's treading water up on the 45-metre mark, sort of, about 45 degrees out from... They're the ones that can win games for you, and it happens so often. We see it so often. It just drives me crazy. And they do have defensive coaches, apparently, in football clubs.
Indeed. Let's have a look at this game that kicked off yesterday, Battle of the Bridge. This is a big win for Sydney. GWS have been going very nicely, Bradley, but in the really wet conditions, Sydney adapted far better. They went on to be comfortable winners, 98-69. They'd be on pretty decent terms with themselves with how their season's kicked off, and I tell you, one guy whose stocks just rise every time the big games are on, Errol Gould, and he was at it again, winning the medal there yesterday. Gee, he's a good talent, this guy.
No doubt. I misread the tea leaves here. I thought this would be the game the Giants would want. This is the one and the conditions they would want. Oh, well, Tom Green, of course, was a bad unlucky, out in the first quarter, and that didn't help because the low centre of gravity players, they really control the football matches, don't they? Goulden, Heaney, those type of players, and they missed Tom Green. But, from my point of view, I thought they'd be flat hands. I thought they'd handle the conditions better, and they did there. Midway through the second quarter, mate, I think they got out to a pretty handy break. But, he's a very good coach. There's no doubt about that. Arguably the best in the competition. I've always maintained that, John Longmire, because he just knows when to pull the right triggers and the right levers to get themselves back into the game. They go man on man when they're behind and under a bit of pressure. They suck the air out of the game, and then they get back to what they want to do. And they did that again yesterday. So from that point of view, they've just... Hayward was good yesterday. He was terrific. Rowbottom is an unheralded player. He just keeps kicking goals and taking jobs on good players. And, yeah, I'm not going to say that. But as we said, and that's why people get a little bit knee-jerk reaction, Shorty, from week to week, because we said there was a couple of teams, Carlton, Collingwood, GWS, Sydney. There was quite a few of them coming up for a month of, playing each other, so to speak, and we were going to find out exactly where the pecking order was. So, fair to say, Sydney have gone to the top of the pecking order after that performance.
Callum Brown in trouble?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because you've got to be smarter than that. You just can't choose to bump and hit someone in the head. And McCartan's obviously not going to be playing next week, and that'll look. He'll probably get 3 for that. And then as I say, this is the uncertainty or the inconsistency of the tribunal. Was there any malice in it? Absolutely not. But it's just that you've just got to get to a stage where they've got to try and knock this out, pardon the pun, knock this out of the players. You just can't choose to bum and hit people in the head.
Once you go high, you're in trouble. The other thing tactically in that game that was masterstroke from John Longmire was shutting Lockie Whitfield effectively out of the game. He's such a big driver for GWS. He got roughly half the numbers that he normally would, and they took his influence out of the game for most of it. So that was clever coaching and well-researched as always.
He does that all the time, doesn't he? As I say, and sometimes you don't want to be doing that in May. You want to be doing that in September. You know what I mean? But sometimes you just look. The trick this year, I think, to winning the flag is getting there. And it's like that every year, but more so this year than any other because there's a cigarette paper between about a half a dozen of the top teams, and then you can't discount some of the teams from 7th down to 14th on their day. Can't be nuisance value.
Got one here from Burt Street. Barney, he'd be from Boulder. Can't see the Saints winning 2 more games this season. They ain't got much, have they? Well, they were too good for North. They're getting players back.
Yeah.
And they were able to beat the Roos 103-65.
I agree with Barney. I mean, they won the game and they got it right, and they won the areas where they like to win, and that's the centre clearance, the clearance per se, the hard ball gets, all of that, the pressure, that sort of stuff. But, geez, they wouldn't have gone within a bull's roar of anybody any good yesterday. We got a little bit out of North, not a lot. I mean, it was late. They started to open up, fatigue set in, a few holes started to appear. Larky worries me. He's getting some goals, boys. You'll see that. If you don't watch the game, and it's very hard to watch all 9 for the listeners, you think he's getting a lot of goals in junk time, Shorty. You know what I mean? So he's coming off with 2 and 3. And you pick up the paper and say, Larky must have gone all right. Well, he went like a busted. You've got to do that. Zerha, 3 goals. But very little else. Nothing else. Half a dozen disposals sort of thing. So Simpkin worries me. They've got no leaders, and I'm really not sure where North are going to go. And with this, and they can't defend, Marty. That's how many times have they conceded 100 points this year? It's getting up there now. It's just not good. You've got to have something to hang a hat on. At the moment, there's not much. Yes, they've got great kids. Wardlaw's going to be an old-fashioned beauty. We know Sheaswell can win the ball. We know McKercher's going to be okay running and bouncing, but. To be honest, it's going to be a long year for North.
They didn't have one tackle inside their forward 50 for the whole game.
50.
Wow, that's an indictment on a side where they've got to. There's one thing that is just not up for debate, and that is you can bring the pressure acts. Yep. It doesn't matter how talented you are. You can go and put pressure on your opposition and work your backside off to at least put them under pressure at some stage. One thing I'll say about North that's probably a little concerning is their good players aren't really getting much better. And I speak of like Luke Davies-Unak's a great example of it. This guy promised a fair bit. And he looked like he was going to sort of take the competition by storm, but he's not having massive impact on games of football right at the moment. And now as a senior player, he's the one that needs to be leading the way through that midfield.
Well, I can't get an insurance policy on my car because I've crashed it that many times this year. Listening to people say, during the week, somebody said, Davies-Uniacke could get a 10-year, $13 to $15 million contract. I think, where am I? What planet am I on?
Yeah.
He's not a game changer. He's a ball of massa, as you say. Look, he's a handy player. And he can only be what he can be. But he's. I just don't get it. And somebody else said Membry was going to be something similar. I think Membry's had a fairly lean year up until yesterday as well. A lot of his goals have come in junk time. So I don't think. I just wonder. Is it about what is being said or who's saying it? That's my worry.
Quickly have a look at this game last night. Melbourne, too good for Geelong. Maxi Gorn was good again in that last quarter.
last quarter, isn't it? And he's the oldest player in the team, pretty much. So, he looked cooked. And I think it goes to a long way to what we spoke about, boys, some time ago in that round one when they got humbled. And, I thought Maxie shouldered a lot of the burden of a lot of the off-field indiscretions. We had Oliver and we had other Joel Smith. We had a lot of things going on, and he was the front window. There was no Pert. There was no chairman. There was, it was all Maxie, and he looked wearied. And I thought, this could be a long year for Max, but somehow he's found a way to reignite himself and the team. And it was a pretty good game. And look, I'm not going to lose any sleep. I think he could probably. There was a lot of people out there saying, well, Geelong have got to lose sometime, and that's fair enough. They didn't lose by much. They made a dash at him again in the last quarter. And let's face it, Cameron went like a busted, and Tom Hawkins been going like a busted for a month. So for them to lose by 8 points at the MCG to Melbourne, a contender, let's face it.
No Dangerfield as well, Brad. No Dangerfield.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a little bit. They've got to find a ruckman. I can't. Reece Stanley can't do it for me, and I think Blicksarves has been a bit indifferent this year. They've got to give that young Conway a bit more airtime.
Yep.
He'll get a chance next week, but as I say, you've got to blood him during the year. You just can't expect to get to September and say, oh, well, we might put him in now, You've got to give him time, get him out there, So, that was a close game, a hard-fought win to Melbourne, and they'll be pleased with that. And that'll be an 8-point game because we know how many Geelong have got down to the Cattery going forward.
Correct. Now, just a couple off the text line we need to clear up for Retrovision. Brad and boys, it's better for the Eagles to play McGovern on the best attacker rather than as a loose player. May and Lever for Melbourne take the best forward of the opposition and still intercept.
Yeah.
May and Lever last night had 16 interceptions and 21 marks. No doubt what is better for the team. Cheers. That is John from Crawley.
No, that's a good call, John. And look, and last night, I think the highest position winner on the game on the ground at quarter time yesterday was Tom Barrass. That's just, to me, and watching it with my own eye, and that's what you've got to trust, the people want to bomb away. You know what West Coast with McGovern and Barrass are going to do. They're going to park in the hot spots, and if you kick it long, they'll just destroy you. And they'll just keep. I'm with John all the way there. And but again, if you get somebody handy like a Langford or whatever, they can make you look silly because they can find space and they can kick goals.
Now, Snoz has fired one in on that Retrovision text line. When Allen returns, will West Coast Selection Committee move Darling on as he has been in poor form since the COVID episode, built like Tarzan, plays like Jane? That's from Snoz.
Yeah. Well, I've been making that known for a long, long time. And again, and good on him. He's had a terrific career. He's a premiership player, and he's kicked 500 goals. And don't mention him in the same breath as Peter Sumich, please.
Bradley, we've got 3 games to look forward to finish up the round today. 11 o'clock WA time. The Tigers hosting Fremantle. Richmond going 290. The Dockers 141. Line betting at 15.5. Total points at 162.5.
Yeah, beautiful day here, Shorty. That's the key for Freo, I reckon, and they'll love that. And sometimes it can be a little bit wet and wintry in Melbourne, as we know. And yeah, that line's gone out a bit, hasn't it? I reckon it was only about 10.5, 11. So there's obviously a lot of confidence about Fremantle today, and so there should be. Richmond have been plucky. Yes, they're down on personnel, but they're more method based, I think. If Dusty and Shai Bolton and Short back in the team can show up, they'll be a worthy contestant for Fremantle, but Fremantle got to try and build on that overlay of scoring high, and they should be able to do that. You don't get many chances, and then he looks at the MCG, and they should be winning this one, but they just don't want to just think they can show up and it'll happen, because Richmond have been more than competitive in a lot of their games this year.
Yeah, absolutely. With the right mindset and playing to the level from last week, they should be hard to beat. 149 to 141, the Dockers, so they've been very well supported, and that line was 12.5. Brad, now 15.5, so it's out of full 3 points. Western Bulldogs Hawthorn, hasn't been a lot of movement in this market through the week. Opened up Doggies 125, Hawks $4. It's now the Dogs 126, Hawthorn 390. The line 25.5 into 24.5.
Always short enough, isn't it? $1.26. But look, they've got to take away Hawthorn any semblance of confidence that they try to build early. You know, look, other teams have done that and done it successfully, and that's going to be on the experienced players today, Marty. You know, it's going to be on Portelli, Liberatore, Bailey, Dale, those type of players. Trelaw, they've got to make sure Norton, Ugle, Hagen back in the side. They've got to make sure that they don't give a sucker an even break, because Hawthorn can be dangerous. I mean, they're not going well. We know that. It's easy to see. They've only won the one game, but and it's against North Melbourne. So, it's hard to pick them, but they can be dangerous if you allow them. You're only as good as the opposition allow you to be. If the Bulldogs allow Hawthorn to be good, they will be good. So it's up to the experienced players to take the bull by the horns here, and they should get it done. But again, it starts to get tricky when you're talking margins and things like that. Just to get the 4 points, bank it, and move on.
Yeah, and they were very good. The game that springs to mind was the final game of Gather Round against Collingwood Hawthorn, and that was just a little glimpse. If you leave them in a contest for long enough, they've got enough damaging players to be right there and stretch it to the line. So it'd be interesting.
For teams like the Dogs and Hawthorn, it's on the day. I mean, the Bulldogs lost by 4 points to Geelong, in Adelaide, you know what I mean? But then they'll lose, to Essendon, who really have shown that form to be quite good. So, they both have to put their best foot forward, otherwise they'll get humbled.
What I do like about this Sunday fixturing from the AFL, if you don't mind, punters, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 5:10, no overlap. Hallelujah. This is something for the punters. Brisbane going $1.50 here, Brad, for the final game. Gold Coast $2.60, the line 12.5. Really interesting Q clash. Just to me, looks like there's a bit too much of a gap between these two sides. Brisbane 2-5. They're not exactly airborne at the moment. Gold Coast, I think, for most part of this season have been pretty good. I thought they could at least give Brisbane a very good run for their money in this game.
Well, logic, it says Brisbane unbeatable last year at the Gabba, lost 3 already this year. They're going to win one soon, aren't they? It's a little bit like Melbourne and Geelong last night. But I'm with you, Shorty. It's only a drive up the highway, so it shouldn't be an issue for the Gold Coast. It's not as if West Coast or someone else is flying across to play them to let them off the hook. And I thought Gold Coast got to work after half-time last week. But people forgot last week that they were coming off a 10-goal shellacking at the hands of the Swans of the SCG. They're not push-button yet, Shorty. They're building, but I reckon it'll be about Tuke Miller. I reckon he goes to Lockie Neal, and if he can hold Lockie or limit him, he's not going to hold him completely, but he's going to limit him. And Anderson, Rowell, etc., can break even or better than McGluggage and co. This is going to be one hell of a game. Again, this is my outsider of the weekend. I think Gold Coast can win this game, and that's the way I'll be looking at it later in the day.
Now, don't get carried away with the free air, because next Friday we've got a double header Friday night. Geelong play Port. That one gets underway at 5:10, and then Dockers play Sydney at 6:30.
On a Friday night?
Friday night.
It doesn't make sense.
I thought I'd just upset
anyway.
the day for you, Shorty.
Let's enjoy this Sunday for what it is. Clear air football, punters, one after the other.
I tried to get him yesterday and he didn't bite, or Friday.
I got him today. And don't forget Carlton and Melbourne on Thursday. So the short week these short weeks are good, aren't they? Just want to sort of smash into each other. Unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be many any Thursday night games after round 15. Why? I got no idea. And they're starting to condition us too, boys. As I said, for the grand final, there seems to be a lot of 4:35 games. I think Foxtel are putting in a requisite that they want, a good game at 4:35 often. So
it's becoming the new.
So we'll keep it on that.
It's becoming the new go-to date and time, hasn't it, Brad? Now, Brad. Let's have a Sunday saviour, mate.
No, I'm passing today.
Sorry, mate.
I cannot get inspired. I'm going to have a Bex and a good lie down and watch the footy like Shorty. I might get involved in Northern Chartin a little later. Mate, when you've got all-weather tracks just about all around the country and Alice Springs, you're doing my head in. So I think Devonport, Gold Coast, was it Sunshine Coast? No, I can't I won't get involved in there. But happy to tip Fremantle, Bulldogs, Gold Coast. How's that?
Okay, beautiful. One of our texters wants those Hong Kong tips from Jay Rooney again. So here we go. Write these down, Brad. Race 8, number 11, unbelievable. Best of the day, race 10, number 8. Kaiying Rising, and race 4, number 6, Sun Strider. There's 3.
What time's race 10, Shorty?
Oh, it won't be too late.
Race 10 at Hong Kong will be on, I'd say, while the Q clash is on, Bradley, so you can pop your feet up there on the dashboard, get some money into that Tab Touch account of yours and watch the footy go around, get the Suns home in the last leg of your multi there and cheer home a couple of Jay Rooney's good things at Hong Kong.
Good luck, Jay. And the race 10, I reckon I won't be Christmas missed by then. Anyway, that's all right. It's going to be a long day. Don't forget Mort's at Red and the Nude Nut, 1-800-100-100. He can do things the Banks can't, boys. Good luck today, and hope you can find a winner somewhere on the all-weather tracks.
Thanks, Bradley.
On the Aftermath, you're listening to Marty Young and David Shortte right here on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
And talking football with Simon Hill. A very good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thank you, Simon. Great to be catching up with you on this Sunday morning here on the Aftermath. Let's get to the Premier League and, the chase for the title remains on. But as it sits right now, I think you'd be on pretty good terms with yourself. City 5-1 winners over Wolves. They, of course, at the moment are 1 point behind the Gunners, but they have got that one game in hand, and that looks to be crucial late in the season.
Yeah, it's been nip and tuck for quite a few weeks now, and because of the staggered kickoffs, which isn't always ideal, one team is normally playing catch up. It's normally been City, to be honest, over the last few weeks, although that will reverse itself next weekend. So Arsenal went 4 points clear by courtesy of defeating Bournemouth by 3-0 in the early kickoff yesterday. Fairly routine for Arsenal. They dominated the game. They had 11 shots in the first 20 minutes, which shows you their dominance. And for a little while, it looked as though that they might be frustrated by Bournemouth, who've had a good season, but they got a penalty right on the stroke of half-time. Bukayo Saka stroking the ball home after Kai Havertz had been fouled. And then second-half goals from Leandro Trossard and Declan Rice easily accounting for the Cherries. So Arsenal have got 2 games left. They go to Manchester United, which is the tough game for them. And then they've got Everton at home to finish at the Emirates. So really they've got to win both. And the reason they've got to win both is because Man City just keep on winning, dispatching Wolves by 5-1 yesterday. In response to that Arsenal victory, Erling Haaland with his first ever 4-goal haul in the Premier League, 2 of them penalties. Julian Alvarez with one on the occasion of his 100th City game. Hwang Hee-chan with a consolation for Wolves. Erling Haaland, by the way, now on 25 league goals, which means he leads the Golden Boot race. So City have got 3 games left. They go to Fulham next weekend. And then it's Tottenham away in midweek, which, again, is City's tough game before they finish off with West Ham at home. So 3 games in 9 days. If City win all 3, then they'll be champions for a 4th year in a row, which nobody has ever done before. If they slip up, it'll be Arsenal's first title since 2004. Simple as that.
Now, this was a big win for Nott Forest overnight over Sheffield United. 3-1 victory here for Notts, and they, of course, were right there in relegation danger on the same number of points as Luton. But with this victory, they now just sneak out of that relegation zone 3 points clear of Luton.
Yeah, and they've got a better goal difference than Luton as well. Luton frustrated on the Friday night when they entertained Everton. They threw everything at Everton, but could only get a point. So really this game against Sheffield United, who of course already relegated, was always going to be massive for Nottingham Forest. And they had a few wobbles in this game as well. They went 1-0 down, Ben Britt and Diaz with a penalty. But Forest kept their nerves. A couple of goals from Callum Hudson-Odoi and one from Ryan Yates. So they've now got Chelsea and Burnley in their final 2 games, Forest. And 4 points will pretty much make them safe because of that better goal difference. Miserable season for Sheffield United, already relegated. That 3rd goal that they conceded was their 100th in the Premier League this season, which equals the record set by Swindon 30 years ago, and that was in a 42-game season. So they'll have to rebuild in the Championship, but it doesn't look as though Forest are going to be joining them.
Newcastle away to Burnley, 4-1 against the Clarets. They led 4-0, didn't they? It was a late one to Burnley.
Yeah, Dara O'Shea with a late consolation. Newcastle 3 goals up at the break. And strangely enough, after a much better start, of the two teams from Burnley, which has been sort of the story of their season. They've not been able to get the initiative, and then defensively, not for the first time this season, they collapsed. Callum Wilson, Sean Longstaff, Bruno Guimaraes with the 3 goals before half-time. Alexander Isak adding a 4th. Newcastle now above Manchester United in the race for the other European placings. They've got 2 games left as well. Brighton at home and Brentford away. I reckon they'll fancy their chances of winning both of those and ending the season in the top 6. As for Burnley, they are now odds-on, you'd say, to be relegated along with Sheffield United after this defeat. 5 points adrift of safety, only 2 games to play. If they can beat Tottenham next time out, which looks a long shot, to be honest, might just give them something to play for going into that final game against Nottingham Forest on the last day of the season. But in all honesty, I can't see it. They're just too leaky defensively.
And, of course, locally last night, it was a big game when it comes to the clash between Melbourne City and Sydney FC. And it was Sydney FC going back-to-back. This was a stunning strike to get the job done. Shay Connors onto the ground for just 2 minutes. Came on in the 67th minute, and just a couple of minutes later, bang, into the back of the onion bag, and the American making the difference with that 69th minute goal and back-to-back titles for Sydney FC, and they were absolutely jubilant.
Yeah, this is in the A-League Women's Grand Final, of course. Good crowd, nearly 8,000 at Amy Park to watch the girls go around for the final time this season. A game that Melbourne City dominated, really. They'll be hugely disappointed they weren't able to win it after securing the premiership, of course, just a few weeks ago. But as you rightly say, Shay Connors, the match winner, a heroic defensive display, really, particularly Jada Wyman in goal. She made some excellent saves. So that's a 5th championship now for Sydney FC, which is some achievement because they've had awful injuries this season without 2 of their key defenders, Kirsty Fenton and Nat Tobin. So that's another feather in the cap of Ante Juric, their coach. The old saying is, goals win your games, defences win your titles, and that was certainly true for Melbourne City yesterday. For Sydney FC yesterday.
Okay, what about this elimination final between Victory and City today? What's the betting there, David?
Having a look at the market, we see the Victory at 240, the draw 370, Melbourne City at 265, and total goals over 2.5, the 157, the under at 238. So expecting it to be a pretty high-scoring encounter.
Well, there might be some value in the unders because they've had 3 tight meetings this season and 2 of them have been goalless draws. The other one ended just a few weeks ago in a very narrow victory for Melbourne Victory, Damien De Silva winning it late on. So this, I think, will be another tight game. I'm not sure there'll be a lot of goals in this one. City come into it in better form. They've won their last 3 games. Victory were beaten last week by Western Sydney Wanderers. But, you know, it's a derby, so anything can happen in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes to extra time, maybe even penalties, given what's at stake.
Excellent. Well, that's a nice push at the good price, too. 238, the under 2.5 there. Simon, just quickly before we let you go on this Sunday morning, I know you're across here in town last week. It's been a miserable finish to the season for the Perth Glory. It's been a tough time. There's so many very proud Perth Glory fans over here that have been there in the shed over the years and getting right behind this franchise. But, it's been tough to get too excited. And their last month of football before the season is rounded out, they have been absolute sieves. They've leaked some really, really big scores late in the piece. Where are the Glory at? Can we find some solstice in the off-season that the new ownership group can potentially clear the decks a little bit and just start with a clean slate and hopefully turn things around next season?
Well, you've got to say the first port of call is to fix the defence because they conceded 23 goals in their last 4 matches, which is ridiculous, really. So there's a lot of work to do in the off-season. And I've got, a fair amount of sympathy for Alan Stajic, as he said after the final game against Sydney, which, of course, they lost 7-1. There's been a lot of contract talks being conducted late on in the season, which is not the usual time of year as to when those discussions take place. So they've got a lot of sorting out to do. I would imagine it would be an off-season of huge change. I don't know what their budgets are, but of course they've now got permanent owners. Ross Pelligra is the new man in charge. So he, along with Stajic and, of course, the new director of football, Stan Lazaridis, I think they will have a long list of ins and outs that they will want to tick off before we even get close to next season. It is a fresh start. It's been a horrible season, a tough season for Perth. And obviously those ownership difficulties, didn't help. But that's been resolved. So fingers crossed they can get, some good players in and start to rebuild. It might take a year or so, but, I think Perth are too big a club to be down in the doldrums for too long. I hope so anyway.
Well, are you broadcasting this game today, Simon?
Yes, I'm in Melbourne today for the derby.
All the best. We'll tune into that call. Should be a ripping game.
Cheers, guys. Have a good week.
Thanks, Simon.
Simon Hill. Now, this game's a ripper. There's no holds barred in this one. A lot of times in the playoffs where they'll, concede because they can't win and all that. This is game on. 33-28 at the moment with the Denver leading at the moment. Edwards has 16, Porter 13, Joe Kick 11 and Carl Anthony Towns 6. So following that one pretty closely. Special guest Gary Portelli rolls up next.
Is on the outside of Mr. Kipchoge, and Transatlantic in the blue cap gets towards the outside. So Captain Fankel's in front. The outside looming up as Razors. Kintyre is driving through. Presslink out wider, followed there by Ducasse on the outside, but Kintyre and Razors. Kintyre the inside grabbing the lead. Razors coming again. Kintyre and Razors. Kintyre just in front. Razors on the outside. Kintyre's in front, and Kintyre's one from Razors. Third to Presslink, followed by Chickamahita.
Well, there it is, the Queensland Guineas replay. Gary Portelli joins us. A fighting victory there to Kintyre, Gary.
Yeah, very happy with the result. Great ride by CJ Graham too. Just used the barrier beautifully and the horse did the rest.
Absolutely. How's the horse this morning coming off that Group 2 success there yesterday? Everything pulling up nicely, Gary?
Yeah, I come home last night, but I spoke to my strapper this morning, and he's cleaned up last night. He's a tough horse, and he just keeps bouncing back. So yeah, he's ready to go again. He'll come home and head back up in a fortnight for the Rough Habit Plate, and probably pull him up for the prep, I'd say.
Beautiful bit of training, wasn't it? 2,000 metres of the Packer Plate at his previous run on the heavy back to the 1,600 of the soft 5 there in that Queensland Guineas.
Yeah, look, it sort of helps with you. I'm very hands-on. I really know my horses and just love the way he pulled up after his last run. And I decided that basically he was pretty fit, and the last thing I needed to do was work him too hard between runs. So we just backed off, and instead of doing three-quarter pace, I got back to half pace with him and just kept it pretty simple. And he travelled up beautifully. I was so happy to see him when I arrived at the track yesterday. He was full through the flank. He hadn't lost a kilo, and he had a real shine to him. And, he really turned up and did the job.
Gary, I get the sense that this horse really enjoys racing. He's had a fair bit of racing for a 3-year-old, 20 starts, but earned well in excess of 500,000 going into the meeting there yesterday. Just a horse that seemingly really does relish being there on race days. Really versatile type. We've seen the horse win anywhere from good right through to heavy surfaces. Really durable sort of animal.
Owner's dream, he is. Exactly. He just turns up week after week. He pulls up sound. He was a real difficult colt. Obviously a half brother to Fireburn. We tried to keep him a colt. He was really hard to handle. We kept him for as long as we could, until we just had to give up and make a racehorse out of him. And, it would have been lovely to see him doing what he's doing now and being a chance of getting to stud, being a half-brother to a Golden Slipper winner. But, he was never going to win a race the way he was. And, he's just tough. He just keeps turning up. He's a beautiful horse. You'd think he's 5 or 6 year old the way he gets round. He's just a fun horse to train and own.
He's versatile as well with tracks and distances. You've dropped him in distance twice, 2,000, back to the mile of the Carbine, went third, then back up to the 2 and back to the mile, and have a look what he's won on. He's won on good, soft, heavy. He's a very, very versatile horse.
Exactly, 700,000 now he's earned, and the way he's going, I think he's the type of horse going to get well over $1 million in prize money. The prize money's on offer these days, and he's just so consistent. If he draws a gate from what you see of his form, he usually wins. If he draws wide, then we've got to ride him accordingly. And we've been set a few tasks a few times this preparation where we've had to go back a long way to get in and then make a wide, long run. You know, if he gets that box seat run, then he's in for the fight, and hopefully he draws a good gate next start in the Rough Habit over the 2000. And that tactical speed he's got at the gates, it takes him a long way because he can tough it out.
I guess the other thing on top of the fact that there was different distances and different track conditions, the fact now you've gone all the way up there to Queensland, to Eagle Farm, that there's another box ticked there, no problem at all, travelling up to a different place, handling the new environment and still performing somewhere near the horse's peak. That's a great thing to know. Some horses do fret a little bit, as you would well know over the years travelling horses. Some cope with it really well, others don't, but looks like that's another box that Kintyre's happy to tick off, and that gives you plenty of confidence heading forward, I'm sure, when you go and pick out different races around the place. Especially with him being as sound as what he is. Like he's never had a lame day, and you know, you're able to train these sort of horses, and you know, there's going to be 2 or 3 years left of racing in him, so I'm looking forward to the future for him.
Geez, you mentioned his breeding. When you do a deep dive into his pedigree, hasn't he got some blood in him? Street Cry, there's Danehill, there's High Shap, there's Zabeel, so you think, wow, no wonder he's like he is.
Yeah, he's a tough horse, and, you know, let's say he's just an owner's, you know, a pleasure to own and a pleasure to train.
What are we doing with the stable? He's been sort of carrying it a bit, hasn't he, over the last month or so, him and Miss Hades?
Yeah, all of our better horses went to the paddock. NCAT went back to the paddock. You know, Kamochi, she had a spell. She's actually going through the broodmare sale, the chairman's sale, on Thursday, I think it is, this week. So I'm sure she's going to bring a lot of money, and hopefully whoever buys her might consider me to keep training her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we've got 4 or 5 really nice horses, but you just can't race them all year long, you know, and disappointing because I really like coming up to Brisbane. Had a bit of luck, and happy to keep coming up with the Kintyre now, and hopefully he can keep ticking away at the number ones beside his name.
Most definitely. Well, fingers crossed for a couple of weeks' time. Hopefully that does all go to plan. Many young horses there that you're working with at the moment that are impressing you, Gary?
Most of our babies have just come through and had a look. We don't sort of do much with them at this point, but we're just like everyone else. They're tickets in the lottery, and we're hoping for the best.
You've been pretty good at it over the years, Gary. Thanks for coming on the program this morning, and all the best. Just one more. If he was to win the Rough Habit Plate well, would you consider going on, or that would be it?
Look, I would consider. There's obviously the 2,000-metre race the following week, Wait for Age race against the Cup, and it's worth 600 the winner. If he happened to pull up well, I'd consider it because you know, horses are in form, and you've got to have a crack. So, you know, one more run might not hurt him.
Thanks for your time this morning.
Anytime, guys.
Cheers, Gary. He's a ripper to this station, Gary Portelli.
These are the Sunday Aftermath Big Bets and Collects on Tab Radio, Racing and Sport.
Y'all ready for this?
This is like being in Metros back in the day, Marty. Many years ago now. We're ready for this. Caulfield Race 1, Senior Bill, won a crop of 7,700 at the 210. Race 3, Cadmus 2,000 at the 4, 24.50 at the 390, 2,500 at the 380. Got the Chocolatas onto race 4, Pantaloni. 7,500 at $5 and 1,300 at 480, 4,000 at 460 unplaced. It went a miss. Midwest race 5, number 2, 1,800 at $5 and 8,000 at 480 unplaced. Race 6, number 7, Angland, 1,000 at 330, 7,000 at 280, 3,500 at 270. Finished runner up to Hawkesbury. Putt for Doe, 1,800 at the 5, 2,700 at the 440 and 2,000 at the 420. No dice, unplaced. Race 3, number 9, Gentileschi, 5,000 at the $1.85. Got the chockies.
It's a nice horse. Follow it.
It is indeed. As is race 5, number 4, Parasol, 19,000 at the $2.80. The Milky Bars are on them this Sunday morning. Race 6, number 5, Shadows of Love, 16,000 at the $2.40, finished third. Race 7, number 1, Schwartz, 7,600 at the $2.45, was successful. Locally at Ascot, race 1, number 5, Lexington City, 3,500 at the $2.10, got the cash. Race 3, number 5, Ollie's Choice, 4,300 at the $1.90, got the cash. And they left a bit in the bag with race 8, number 3, Lord Gannicus, 1,000 at $8.50, running third. To Morphettville, race 1, number 2, Ardzino, 2,380 at the $3.40. 2,000 at the 290, finished fourth. Race 2, Miss Sunshine, 3,000 at the 320, 3,000 at the 3,000 at the 290, 7,000 at the 275, 7,000 at the 260, 9,950 at the 250, and 10,000 at the $1.90.
You want it again?
Missed it. Runner-up, unlucky, no dice there. And, of course, quickly, Eagle Farm, Typhoon Tavi, 9,900 at the 170 was a nice bet that landed. Weagle Tiger, Chris touched on it, being one to follow. Unfortunately, though, for the customer that had 9,800 at 350 and running third, it was not to be. Having a look for the punters for the day of racing, the Sunday Early Money Trail. Sale, race 1, number 12, Crown of Catherine, and race 3, number 9, Esprit Spirit. Tanara, race 4, number 4, Roman Miss, and race 7, number 8, Can Expect Greater. To Bathurst, race 2, number 1, Lucky Star, race 4, number 3, Pahang, race 5, number 2, Bobby Shiraz, and race 7, number 7, Alande. At Sunny Coast, race 1, number 8, Not Surprised, race 4, number 7, Denied, and rounding it out at Northern, race 3, number 1, Percussion Prince, and 9, Fight in Flight, 4-2, He's Archie, 6-11, Western Empire, and race 7, 2, Falcon Trader, and 4, Viamonte.
Beautifully done, David. Just one quick one from the text line for Rusty Gates. He's always good. I selected Melbourne to defeat Geelong yesterday, not because I think they are a more superior side than Geelong, but simply because history would tell that a side that has gone undefeated after 7 rounds and comes up against a good side playing it on their home track are due for a loss. And also, I just don't know how Jeremy Cameron knew that I'd tip Geelong. How do they work that out?
Oh, Marty, sometimes tipping and punting can be a very challenging caper.
Thanks for coming in as always, David.
Pleasure, Marty. Good luck, punters.
Yes, Racing Rewind's coming up.